Welcome to Dom's Roundtable, my friends. I am your host, Dom, and on this channel, we take the legwork out of gaming by spending countless hours researching your favorite games and creating these in-depth guides. Today is my first in a new series of No More Room in Hell 2 guides, starting off with a good old tips video. We're covering so much vital information today, from the first time you open the game right through to mastering the gameplay. The first few tips will be preparing you to enter your first match, helping you understand what to focus on and what to avoid doing. These are very important, so get your notepad ready and let's begin. Before we jump into the first tip, let me take a moment to thank the sponsor for today's video, New World Aeternum. New World Aeternum is a brand new open world MMORPG with a huge vision, an enthralling world, and so much content and so many quests to dive into. And you can play right now, available on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC. Here's a bunch of incredible features of New World Aeternum, starting with a skill-based dynamic combat system, including swords, guns, and sorcery, plus loads of new content and features. And even if MMOs aren't usually for you, please note that New World Aeternum is completely accessible to any number of players. That means that even if you wish to play completely solo and treat it more as just a really solid open world RPG, then you can do just that. I truly feel like this game is going to have something for everyone, from an incredibly rich classless customization system, which allows you to spec out your character however you wish, to so many different ways to play the game, such as PvP, group content, raids, and a massive open world to explore. So if that all sounds good to you, don't forget to jump straight into New World Aeternum, as it is available now on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC. This first tip is absolutely vital, and it's a two-parter, so pay attention because it will completely change the way you thought you should play the game, and it will take away the fear of dying and losing a character. Characters in this game are known as your responder, and the first thing you need to know is that dying is a part of the game, a big part, but this is a good thing, believe it or not, because as your separate account level increases, you unlock new skills which you didn't have access to before. So the first few characters that you're leveling up can never be the best, most powerful versions of themselves because you don't have your full deck of skills unlocked yet. Therefore, for the first part of this tip, if you're good enough and you keep succeeding extraction after extraction, is to let your character die, so that you can experience all of the new, potentially more powerful skills that you've been unlocking as you've been leveling up your account, and try out all of these new awesome abilities that you didn't have access to before. And the second part of this tip is to prioritize completing missions and objectives, instead of just trying to rush for the extract. Because how it works is that completing objectives is what gives you account XP, and this is what you want to focus on first, as I've mentioned, so that you can unlock your full deck of skills. Obviously, extracting is great, I'm not saying don't extract, because you're going to be looting supplies to level up your character, and that will make them more powerful, and you only retain these supplies and your character level if you manage to successfully extract. As a side note, there are certain items that you can extract with that will also give you a bump to your account XP, but just to reiterate, in the early stages of your progression, account experience is far more important than responder experience, and I will tell you why right now in the next tip. So, I just spoke to you about making your responder more powerful, and surely that sounds like a good thing, right? But you don't want to be doing this too quickly, because this could also potentially have negatives and drawbacks if you're leveling up too much too soon, which is another reason for you to not specifically focus on extracting and focus on your account XP first, because the more powerful your responder becomes, the tougher missions become. Specifically, it will calculate the combined level of all responders in the lobby, and it will bump up the difficulty to an appropriate level of balance to ensure missions always stay challenging. Therefore, it's in your best interest to keep your responder at a low level whilst you're learning the game and leveling your account, and also to play with pre-made groups where possible, which leads me on to the next tip perfectly. Pre-made groups versus playing with randoms. What are the benefits to having a squad, if there are any? And actually there is two main benefits. Firstly, your comms are all synced up from the get-go, so you can coordinate split pushes and cover multiple objectives at once without having to go and find your squad first, and without ever losing contact with them. Because as soon as someone is in your squad, you can hear their microphone and you can see them typing in the text box no matter where on the map they are. Whereas if you're playing with randoms, you've got to go around and find everyone first and add them to your squad. And secondly, and perhaps even more importantly, you then know the level of everyone that you're playing with, so you can appropriately prepare for the mission difficulty and make sure that you're trying to play with people around a similar level, so you're not playing a mission that's too difficult. Therefore, my big advice for this one would actually be to join my Discord server. We have thousands of players ready that we have gathered up through various games, all very excited to play No More Room in Hell 2, and we have dedicated channels set up, ready and waiting for us all to jump into pre-made groups and tackle the zombie apocalypse together. Now that you know how to approach your first match and what to do and what not to do, that's enough of them tips, so let's move on to some actual gameplay tips and how to make the most out of the tools available and some handy hotkey tips. First up, I wanted to tell you about the compass. The compass screen gives you a lot of valuable information, and you can access your compass by holding C on your keyboard. Not only does it bring up the actual compass on your wrist, helping to guide you to your next objective, but it will also show you other useful information such as your current HP, and at the top left how many supplies you and your teammates have collected, along with lots of other useful information. So get familiar with this screen and check the compass frequently, well, as long as you're not being swarmed by zombies, obviously. And among other things, you can use this to keep an eye on your health levels and make sure you're not getting too sidetracked chasing down optional loot. Next up, one of the first things I would advise you do is set your crouch button to toggle rather than hold. Having to hold your crouch button to do things like crawling under fences or give you better aim if you're trying to headshot distant zombies is just a right pain in the arse. There is even a perk which makes you better with heavy rifles when you are crouching, but trying to press all of these buttons at once and still aim and still hold down the crouch button is a bit of a nightmare. So go into your settings and make crouching a toggle, because it's going to make certain actions far easier. Next up, make sure you scavenge everywhere. There are many named locations on the map. These are your key points of interest, but if you've watched my Q&A video with the game director, you'll know there's a plethora of great loot, hidden lore, and Easter eggs to be found elsewhere too. So venture off the beaten path and see what awesome loot and goodies you can find for you and your team. And make sure you are checking absolutely everywhere. This includes in the backs of vans, the trunks of cars, in bathroom stalls, literally everywhere could have your next favorite weapon. And talking of loot, the next tip is to please conserve your resources. Aside from armory rooms, which you will unlock at the end of each big objective, most resources are scarce, whereas the zombie horde is infinite. So don't engage unless absolutely necessary, and always favor defense over offense, because you can and will take a lot of damage. So it's very easy to run out of that stack of bandages and medkits that you were saving far quicker than you anticipated. Hoard all of your equipment until you absolutely need it, because you are going to need a lot of ammo, consumables, healing, and passive buffing items during the final stages of a mission. Next up, don't shoot. For the love of God, make your ranged weapons the last resort. Everything you do in this game makes noise. You can find boots which make your running quieter. This is a passive permanent buff for the rest of the match. But if you start shooting at a zombie when a swift blow to the head with your melee weapon would have killed it, you're going to attract the attention of many unnecessary nearby zombies, and it's just not worth the panic that it will sow throughout your party as the horde starts descending upon you. And not to mention all of the resources you're going to burn through fending them off and fleeing to safety. For these next few tips, let's talk about your interaction with other players, both in and outside of your squad. Firstly, you want to listen out for other players outside of your squad over the proximity chat, and also by keeping your eye on the text box in case anyone close by is typing. If you do spot either of these things, call back to them and link up ASAP. The more people in your squad, the better. There is literally no downside. Not only will you obviously now have more friends ready to fight the hordes with, but also any supplies that they've found will also count towards your player XP at the end of the mission. Which takes us perfectly into the next tip. Supplies are combined. Yes, that's right, combined. They're not individual, they're not shared, they are combined. I was initially very concerned during my first few missions before I managed to successfully extract that this cooperative game would quite quickly become a competitive game, because you're racing to ensure that you are the one who grabs the most supplies so that you can level up your character more efficiently in each mission. However, upon my first successful extract, I was pleasantly surprised that supplies that all players in your squad have collected are not hoarded by the person who collected them, nor are they even split between you and shared amongst your squad. They are actually combined, and then all players receive the total amount of all supplies. So if 3 of you have gathered 2,000 supplies each, that's 6k experience that every single person gets. If you link up with all 8 players, that's 16,000 experience that you all get. It's such an incredible way to make this system work because it rewards jolly cooperation, which is always a huge win in my book. Also, bonus tip, if someone dies, you cannot get their supplies. They will come back as a zombie and you can kill them and you can get their equipment, but you can't get their supplies. This is to incentivize keeping your team alive, which again, I adore this mechanic. And next up, you will periodically hear the commander talking over voice comms. This is heard by all players, and they are indicating when points of interest are being interacted with and completed by other responders, other players in your operation.
Be aware, the power plant's west gate has been opened. Move in, carefully.
Use this to keep track of where other players outside of your squad are, and you can use that to either link up with them and have them join your squad sooner, or coordinate attacks on multiple key objectives at once. Next up, let's look at a few survival tips. Firstly, you want to use the environment as much as you possibly can to your advantage. There are many zombies and they ramp up as the mission goes on and you get closer towards that primary main objective at the end of the mission. So you want to exploit these brain-dead zombies' weaknesses as much as possible to give yourselves a fighting chance. So make sure you close all doors behind you and use barricades whenever you can to buy yourself time. Also, on top of this, you will see fuel barrels and gas canisters scattered around, which you can shoot and use as makeshift explosives. You can very easily lead hordes into them and cause a massive explosion, wiping out a big chunk of the horde. Always look around for help from your environment, such as barricades, doors, barrels, explosions, anything you can think of to help you get a leg up on the horde. Another great example of this is to exploit safe areas, such as high crates or impenetrable security doors. Most zombies can't climb, or the few that can do so very, very slowly, so get up on high crates and containers that zombies will struggle to reach. Even if you don't have enough ammo to fend the horde off, hopefully someone will come to your rescue. They'll either clear out the horde so you can run away, or at the very least they'll distract them so you can jump off and run to safety. And likewise, scattered around the map are certain doors that are impenetrable by zombies. During my very first mission playing with a few other content creators, I had a few of the red-eye zombies chasing me down, and I was absolutely not going to be able to take them out by myself. And I saw one of these security doors off in the distance at one of the checkpoints. So I sprinted to this door and closed it behind me as quick as I could, and then I quickly realized they couldn't break it down. What proceeded next was 15 minutes of me calling out an SOS until another group did eventually turn up and help me out. Situations like this make the game feel so realistic, and it was a really cool experience being trapped in this room and having the zombie horde just build up and then see these two guys come in, wipe them out and free me and save me. Such an awesome experience, and I cannot wait for us all to have many more of these as a community. These next few tips are all about loot and your inventory. Firstly, you have a very limited inventory, so gather your equipment strategically. Everyone will start, at least in the early access build, I don't know if this will change, with a melee weapon and a magnum pistol. And if you encounter a cache of weapons, don't grab 2 or 3 of them for yourself, because you have such a limited inventory space that you're going to completely fill yourself up on weapons and you won't be able to have any defensive or healing items. Also, you really want to share the guns so that everyone in your squad is as efficient as possible. So have one person grab the shotgun, one person grab the assault rifle, one person grab the heavy rifle, one person grab the pistol. Therefore, you're all using different ammo types, so none of you are going to be fighting for ammo, and also your inventories will be nice and tidy because you only need to hold 2 guns, being your primary and secondary, and 2 ammo types, leaving the rest of your inventory free for support items, healing, explosives, pipe bombs, things like that. We spoke about supplies earlier. This is what grants your responder experience and helps you to unlock new skills. Supplies do not take inventory space, so feel free to grab as many of them as you want. As I say, the whole team benefits no matter who has grabbed the supplies, so as soon as you see any, make sure you grab them straight away. There is no downside to doing so, and they are probably the most important items in the game to loot. And we'll finish up this first tips video with a few tips on killing the zombies themselves. You'll probably already know these if you've watched my Q&A video, so I'll just reiterate quickly, but you want to watch out for zombies fresh from the feast. They are still covered in blood, they are super powerful, and they won't die easily. Other very powerful zombies have red eyes. If you find a zombie covered in blood with red eyes, they are going to take a beating before they go down. And they can lose all of their limbs, including their head, and still be flopping towards you as a torso. And yes, they will still damage you if they hit you. So make sure you pummel these things until they are definitely no longer moving. As with all zombie games and movies, most regular zombies go down with one shot or one blow to the head. So aim for the head first. And for any of these bloody zombies or red-eye zombies that are still moving, even once you have detached the head, make sure you next take aim at the limbs, because this will slow their advance and make them less deadly. That is it for my first, 20 or so tips? Didn't really keep count, but there was a lot of them. Let's go with 20. And as always, my friends, all that's left for me to say is thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an amazing day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.